Welcome back. I am so thrilled you're here for today's explainer because we are unpacking the absolute most critical moments of an app's entire life cycle. I was honestly amazed to learn how tiny design decisions in those first fleeting, fragile seconds have a massive impact on user retention. It's like a giant puzzle, and getting it right is a real game changer. So, get comfortable and let's explore exactly what happens behind the glass of your smartphone. Okay, let's dive right into this. Picture it. You just found this shiny new app in the store. You tap download, wait for that little circle to fill, and finally tap to open. What happens next? Well, you're now experiencing the brutal reality of app adoption. You're waiting to be impressed, right? You're waiting to see if this app is actually worth the precious storage space on your device. And the reality is, developers only have seconds to convince you. And here is the hard-hitting reality of why those seconds matter so much. 25%. According to industry research, apps lose a quarter of their users after just one single session. Let that sink in for a second. 1 in 4 people will download an app, open it once, and literally never come back. A huge reason for this immediate drop-off? It's usually a clunky, confusing, or just plain frustrating first impression. So here's our playbook for today. We'll start with the first impression problem, look at the splash screen curtain call, and then the onboarding opening act. We'll spot the differences, check out some real-world success stories, and finish up with your next steps and takeaways. Kicking things off with Section 1, the first impression problem. This is all about what makes or breaks retention. Let's move along and see how this builds, because getting these initial few screens right or wrong has a measurable, immediate impact on whether a user actually activates and sticks around. If we map out the chronological user journey, look at the timeline we're dealing with. At 1 second, you have the download, but watch what happens right after. At 3 seconds, you hit the loading moment. By 1 minute, you're into the welcome experience. And by minute 5, you've hopefully reached activation. We're going to put our magnifying glass right on that 3-second to 1 minute window, because that is exactly where the splash screen and the onboarding screen live. Moving fast into Section 2, splash screens, the curtain call. This is that crucial loading moment. Now, this phase happens fast. It's quick, it's fleeting, and it's over before you know it. Think of the splash screen as your app's curtain call before the main show even starts. It is a brief, strictly non-interactive, 1 to 3 second branded screen. It only pops up while the app initializes in the background, so really, it's a loading screen in disguise. It's checking authentication, fetching data, and its primary job is simply to keep you from staring at a blank, broken-looking void. Because it's so quick, the rules here are pretty strict. You definitely want to include a clean, centered app logo. Use a brand color background that perfectly matches your visual identity, but do not include login or sign up buttons. I mean, you can't tap them anyway. Avoid long animations. Honestly, anything over a second is a waste. And absolutely avoid promotional banners. This is not an ad space. It's a waiting room, and nobody likes being pitched to in a waiting room. When we look at the common pitfalls to avoid, a splash screen over 3 seconds long is a big one. It just makes users think your app is broken. Throwing ads in here? Incredibly annoying. And forgetting dark mode, getting hit with a blinding white screen in a dark room is just jarring. Compare that to the expert secrets. Keep it under 3 seconds max. Use platform native UI implementations so it's buttery smooth. And please support dark mode. Remember, a 5-second spinning logo on every single app open is a terrible user experience. You want to get them in and get out of the way. Okay, let's slow things down a bit for Section 3, onboarding. The opening act. This is your welcome journey. Take a breath here. We are transitioning out of that lightning-fast loading phase and into a space where the user is finally in control. If the splash screen was the curtain call, the onboarding screen is the opening act. This is a multi-step, highly interactive, and educational experience. It's specifically designed to guide a brand new user to truly grasp your app's core value, and it only happens on the first launch. This is the critical moment where users actually decide whether your app is worth keeping or if they're going to become part of that 25% drop-off statistic we talked about earlier. Now, what's really interesting about this is how tailoring your onboarding flow to the specific function of the app drastically improves retention. You don't just throw up a generic welcome message. If your app's value isn't immediately obvious, use a benefit-focused flow to highlight 3 to 5 key perks. If you're a delivery app, use a setup and permissions-focused flow to explain exactly why you need their location. If you're a content platform, use a personalization-focused flow to tailor their feed right away. Or to reduce friction entirely, use an interactive try-before-you-sign-up flow so they can play around before fully committing. But man, onboarding is so easy to mess up. Just think about the pitfalls. Feature dumping every single thing your app does, forcing users through an exhausting 10-plus screen gauntlet, or demanding camera and location permissions right away without any context whatsoever. Doing all of this without a skip button? That builds resentment, not engagement. Compare that to the best practices. Always lead with the value the user actually gets. Keep it to a concise 3 to 5 screens maximum. And use progressive disclosure, which basically means revealing complexity only as the user actually needs it.
Moving into Section 4, Spotting the Differences. This is the ultimate head-to-head matchup.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between the two. It's incredibly common for even experienced product managers to confuse these screens, but let's break it down. Purpose? The splash screen is just a loading moment, while onboarding exists to educate and activate. Duration? Splash is 1 to 3 seconds tops. Onboarding is totally user-controlled and can take minutes. Interactivity? Absolutely none on the splash screen, high on the onboarding. And finally, the splash screen pops up on every cold launch, but onboarding should only ever appear on that very first launch. So the absolutely crucial point here is this. The splash screen is completely separate from onboarding. A splash screen that tries to cram in a welcome message just creates confusing clutter. And an onboarding screen that automatically times out and forces you forward, that just feels like a broken loading screen. Give each specific element one single job, execute it perfectly, and move on. Let's look at Section 5, Real-World Success Stories. Time to learn from the best in the business. It's honestly amazing how industry heavyweights handle this to drive massive user activation. Take Duolingo, for example. They actually ask what language you want to learn and what your goals are before they ever ask for an email address. You're invested before you even sign up. Slack doesn't ask for notification permissions on screen 1. They wait until you join a workspace and genuinely need them. Headspace, they don't just list features. They ask, what brings you to Headspace today? Really leaning into emotional storytelling. And Instagram takes a minimalist approach. Their UI is so intuitive, they just skip the long tutorials entirely and trust the user. Finally, Section 6, Next Steps and Takeaways. Here is your practical optimization playbook. All right, time to shift from theory to practical action. If you're building an app, here is an expert checklist you can use right away. Number 1, audit your current splash screen. Does it load fast? Does it support dark mode? Number 2, map your onboarding flow out on paper first. Number 3, kill the fluff. Literally, remove any screen that doesn't directly help the user reach their first moment of value. Number 4, set up analytics so you can actually see exactly where users are dropping off. And number 5, always test and iterate on your copy and screen order. Small changes here compound into massive retention gains over time. Now, if you're looking at all these best practices and wondering how to implement them without building everything from scratch, there is an incredibly logical solution. Visit appofweb.com and convert your website to mobile app today. It is absolutely the easiest way to launch an app of your own, ensuring a seamless journey from that first tap all the way to user activation. Which leaves us with one final, pretty important question to reflect on. Is your digital presence truly ready for the mobile era? A great app isn't just about the code behind it. It's about respecting the user's time from the very first second the screen lights up. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Take these insights, go optimize those first impressions, and I will see you next time.